Bernadette. I am the creator channel of the Archanimal Tarot and Oracle deck, as well as the publisher of whatismyspiritanimal.com and buildingbeautifulsouls.com. And I am here today with my beautiful goddess sister, witchy poo, soul sister, Dana, who is just an amazing, amazing person, human, friend, sister, and tarot reader. She is like the symbolism queen. And so I've asked her to join me for this series of videos so that you can learn the tarot from the more intuitive side, which is what I specialize in, and then also from a deeper symbolic background than I have, because Dana pretty much reads about symbolism every single solitary day of her life. It's her jam, it's her groove, just like animals are my jam and my groove. So welcome, Dana. Thank you so much for joining us. Tell the folks a little bit about yourself, babe.
I'm a witch. I'm also a priestess. I'm a solitary practitioner right now. But I am the co-author of
quarantine.
Yeah, exactly. Well, there's ways to practice, I suppose, together through intention and mindset with others. But yeah, I'm the co-author of Wicca: What's the Real Deal? Breaking Through the Misconceptions. Sacred Objects, Sacred Space, Everyday Tools for the Modern Day Witch, and the Esoteric Dream Book, Mastering the Magical Symbolism of the Subconscious Mind. And I'm the owner and operator of Lucky Frog Tarot. And when I'm not doing that, I'm a writer and author. And when I'm not doing that, I'm with my grandkid or my other kids and my family and my crazy pugs and chihuahua and cats. Catskill Game Farm.
So what Dana failed to mention, as she does every time, is that she's an award-winning author. Thank you very much.
Yes.
And so you can find the link to her books and to her site in the comment or the notes section below. And also just a shout out to Shipper Publishing, whose Dana's 3 books are published with. So moving on, today we are talking about bibbidi bobbidi boo. That's what I think about every time I see a wand show up in a tarot reading. I'm from Florida, we're like indoctrinated with the whole Disney thing. But before we get started into the meaning and symbolism of wands and the element and the seasons and the colors and directions and everything associated with wands, let's talk about what a wand actually is or can be.
Sure.
Because my gosh, I know in the Wiccan culture and then in tarot groups online, and people are talking about, what they use wands for, not just the cards or what a wand has to be or not be. Listen, these opinions that Dana and I give you guys, they're just opinions. And some of them are just plain old opinions, but some of them are based on the opinions of 30. Well, Dana, I know you've got 30 something years and I've got 30 something years as a professional reader. That's a combined 60 plus years of gathering data and watching what works and what doesn't work. But what works and doesn't work for us may work or not work for you. So take it all with a grain of salt, whether it's from us or it's anybody else. But I have one wand, and I have it in all honesty because I went to a rock and a mineral show and got the most amazing deal on it. I love it. It's beautiful, but I don't use it. This is a pretty wand that sits in one of my cabinets that has all of my better crystals in it. And just because I don't use it doesn't mean that I couldn't use it. And having a wand such as this, if you guys can see, it's got an amethyst here at the base, and then it's got a few others, and it's wrapped in silver, and then it's got a quartz crystal at its point. And then there's a purple glass rod in the middle. These are not the best quality stones that you're ever going to see, but it was pretty. And like I said, I got such a deal. So how could I leave without it, right? And I liked it. And that really, it's just like in Harry Potter when they're using natural wands, they're using wooden wands. Jesus's chalice was wood, if I'm not mistaken. It wasn't all, fancy schmancy. Listen, I watched Raiders of the Lost Ark. So it doesn't have to be fancy schmancy. It doesn't even have to be created or constructed to intentionally be a wand. You set your intention in it. Like Dana, the wand that you chose to use today is show us your wand.
Actually a pen. And that's because the wands are about projecting your will, and you would think of it as an extension of your arm. so that when you're projecting your thoughts or your intentions in any kind of working, that it would run out and help like manifest it into the physical. Now it's the same thing as with thoughts. You want to manifest your thoughts, you would use a pen. So a pen is like the ample wand for manifesting whatever's on your mind. Same thing with swords. Sometimes you can invert them, use swords to manifest what you want, because that serves as an extension. But that's why you end up having all those different kinds of wands. You've got wands and staves and batons and rods that all show up in the tarot, and that's because there's all sorts of different wands that you can use. Usually they're anything that allows you to project your intention.
Yep. And when you think about it, your finger, especially your pointer finger, be a wand. Because when I think to movies that have some of the most powerful moments in them, it's when somebody just points at somebody else and doesn't say a word, and that person backs down. And that's because, yes, it's an extension of your arm, but it's also a way to focus, gather your energy, and then send it out through one place. So it's more concentrated, very much like a laser. It's a lot of the reason that people love pyramid shapes, is that all that energy gathers from the bottom and then comes out through the top, kind of the apex. But you can use wands for everything. I know a lot of energy healers that they use chakra wands. They use, some of them use clear quartz. Some of them, selenite wands are very big. I know a few Wiccan practitioners that do have wands that they made themselves, that they got from reclaimed wood or trees that had fallen. Certainly you can have them made out of crystals. Yours is probably made out of some metal alloy.
Yeah.
That said, before again we get into the meaning of wands in the tarot, the suit of wands, I think it's really important that you resonate with what your wand is made out of. And you don't have to have just one. I mean, I know a lot of people that have a whole collection of them, kind of like the crystal people that, you walk into their house and you're like, oh my gosh, because the energy coming out of their houses is nuts because they've got so many crystals everywhere and just kind of put willy-nilly. And but depending on what your wand is made out of, that is also going to bring a certain energy to the projection of your energy. So when you're using the tarot, you can take into your interpretation when you do a spread, or you're just kind of randomly flipping the cards like I do in intuitive tarot. I don't do any particular spread. I just flip till I am told by spirit, we're done here. The kind of wand, what the material of the wand that you choose is made out of, can easily affect how you interpret that particular card. So that's why I wanted to go through like physical wands and what they're made out of and what they can be made out of and what you can choose, because it really is always your choice, and how that might affect your tarot reading when you see the suit of wands in your pulls. So let's, is there anything you want to add to that, Dana?
Other than the fact that you talked about using your finger instead of using something outside of yourself. And that's really one of the fundamental teachings of any kind of magical system, is that the magic comes from within. Yeah. All the tools are just paraphernalia, really, the trappings.
Right.
But the source comes from within you, so it's about directing what's inside of yourself, outside of yourself, as within, so without.
Yep. And so, me, I come from a more shamanic base, which is, really, if without delving back into the history of things, Wicca, which is it's very shamanic based, and that's where that whole kind of thing sprang from. But it's like a shaman will use their drums, they'll use their rattles, they'll use their voice, and then for people who are cooks, kitchen witches, any kind of person that's practicing, making their own medicines with plant medicine or anything, herbs. Your wand at that point is whatever you're using to stir everything together, to bring, to consolidate everything, bring the energy all in one place and have one particular outcome. In my case, it just happens to be brownies. So that's when I do my best magic, when I'm making brownies. I even have one of those pans where every side of the brownie is a crust, right? It's, anyway. Okay. So You can tell I didn't have breakfast this morning. So okay, so moving on, let's before we get into the symbolism and meaning of the suit of wands, let's do the list that we do, which is what element is associated with the suit of wands, Dana?
Air. Now, some people will argue fire.
Right.
Because they think that wands project your will, so that's associated. Will is associated with the south, the movement of the will. But air is really associated with the eastern corner of the circle or any kind of cardinal direction. So air, intellect, anything that's associated with the air, particularly communication. But the element is air. Yeah. I really feel it's air, but I will look at it as fire too when I'm doing cards. I will look back and forth, kind of combine the idea.
Yep, because it can be so confusing for any reader, but particularly for beginning tarot readers, because wands and swords can be so interchangeable so much of the time that, like you said, it's really important to look at the story going on around it, you know?
Yeah.
And so the season then associated with the suit of wands is?
Spring. Or summer if you're associating it with the fire.
Right. Okay. So that goes into, spring is all about creation and things coming to life, things blooming, which is exactly what you would use a wand for. And the way, everyone who's watching this, your relationship that you build with the suit of wands will be your relationship. So when I see them in a reading, I'm not kidding. The most immediate thing I hear is bibbity bobbity boo. And I started hearing it, I think, as a joke, but then it really became over time. I know there's magic afoot. And I know that the spirit guides are really trying to work with that person. I mean, really, what else is a fairy godmother but a spirit guide, right? So, I know that there's something they're not hearing, because for me, wands have come to mean, you talk about communication. Well, I do communication with the other side, with my psychic mediumship, my shamanic journeying, and communication isn't always what we read, and it's not always what we hear. It can be what we hear through our third eye or through our heart. So I always know that is about messages that are coming to you on the wind or through the air.
Yes.
Yeah, exactly. So I immediately associated with that. When you see the suit of wands, how does it sit with you? What's your relationship with the suit of wands?
Well, it's interesting you said things that are on the air, because not only is it things that are spoken, but it can also be what's unspoken. Somebody's actions, what's between the words, somebody's feelings and how it's being projected into the air, or how it's being projected if you're looking at fire or air, whichever one you're looking at. So it's really about communication of feelings, just interacting with someone else, how they're interacting, why that interaction is occurring, if the interaction has been stagnant, if it's going to start up again, because it can give indications of starting communication, or things that are pausing, or things that are or going to start into movement again. So it's really about the movement of communication between others. Sometimes it's communication with the self, the self-exploration, what you tell yourself. So it's all about really thoughts and how you kind of translate them.
Oh, you bring up such a good point. I'm so sorry we didn't mention this in earlier videos. I'll try to be better about that moving forward. But I've been reading for so long, and between the two of us, we've got to have done easily 80,000 readings. I know I've done over 35 or 40,000 myself. You've got to have done that many.
Yeah, I've done about 13,000, I think, just over that.
Yeah, exactly. So, well, that's just in the last few years. What God knows what you've done before that, Yeah. But here's the thing, I've always found that when you read for other people, there is always, always, always a message in there for you. Always. And I believe that because I believe in sacred contracts and synchronicity because of sacred contracts, meaning, that person could have gone to anybody to get a reading. And they may be one of the junkies out there that are calling 5 psychics a week, or 5 readers a week. And there are people that do that, right? So, but the timing of the clients that come and the messages that they need to hear and the questions they need answered is, you know, listen, not to sound like a narcissist or, you know, it's all about me. But when you guys are taking a look at the cards that fall, be really open if you can, if you think this will be of value to you, to receiving messages for yourself. And I watch a lot of readers, like in class, I watch them skip that. And the lessons that they're needing to learn are very much the lessons that are coming kind of through the client's experience also. Because tarot is not just about the outside things that are going on. They're about the inside things that are going on, not just for your client, but for you too. Because tarot is nothing if it's not a journey of self-discovery, do you know?
Exactly.
And it's also can be really helpful to clients when you open yourself to seeing the messages that are best for their own growth, rather than just talking to them about what you see for the external things that are going on around them. You know, I, like most readers, I get a lot of calls about so-and-so cheating on me. I'm not happy in this relationship. I'm cheating on somebody.
Mm-hmm.
And there's always something in the cards about them taking a good look at themselves, about why.
Their motives.
Yeah, exactly. So, all right. So let's talk.
I can add to that. I can say that I took a class once, and I cannot remember the person's name now, so I feel bad that I can't give them credit. But I can say that what they said was pretty much on what you're saying. That if you're going to do readings for anybody, whether you're a psychic, a tarot reader, you know, medium, crystal gazer, whatever you're doing, you need to be ready to deal with your own stuff. You need to be ready to tap into your own problems. You need to be ready to face them for two reasons. One, you can learn how to help others do that. If you can help yourself, you can help others. And two, you'll be forced to tap into that, whether you want to or not. You better be ready to deal with it.
You know, let me tell you something. That is so true, because I really always thought of myself as a pretty non-judgmental person. Right up until about 12 years ago, there was a little sandwich place beside where I had my medical. You okay?
Yeah.
Yeah. There was there was a little sandwich place beside where I had my metaphysical store. And I walked in one day, and there was an older fellow behind the counter. He'd worked there forever. And he was like pushing 50. And there was a really young girl behind there. She might have been 18 or 19.
Mm-hmm.
And I looked at the two of them, and I knew immediately they were having a love affair. And immediately I was so angry with him because, you know, I mean, my mind just went nuts. It just went nuts. And I just really harbored that. You know, I was polite to him, but cool. And I just, you know, for the next 6 months, I would peek in the window to see if they were the ones working behind the counter. And if they were, I would just order lunch from someplace else. It just really bothered me. So one day I got a phone call, and they wanted a reading. And I really struggled with whether to give them a reading. I was like, well, could I be non-partial and step aside and be an open channel? So I said, sure. Is it okay if I use tarot for you? Yes. I said, okay, because that would assure me that I could be a better channel, because I would be working with a tool that was not just myself. So they came in and they said, we know that you know that we're a couple, but nobody else knows. And I said, well, you're fooling yourself that no one else knows. I said, you guys don't hide it very well. I said, but in your early days, yeah, I knew. And I said, so what is it that I can tell you? And they just wanted a couples reading. Well, let me tell you something. I was never, well, I'm sure I've been more ashamed than this, but I was floored and I was ashamed, because through their reading, they're soulmates, which of course makes sense. If you're going to share that intimate relationship with somebody, no matter their age, you know, color, whatever, And let's be clear, when I say age, I mean consenting adult. I want to be very clear about that.
Mhm.
But even such a large age disparity, yes, obviously at some point, if you believe in sacred contracts, they came together, they agreed to meet at a certain time in their life, so on and so forth, and there they were. But this was like theirs is a true love, a love of many lifetimes.
Mhm.
And despite their age difference, they really were meant to be together, not to experience like the tower or the devil or some other cataclysmic epic spiritual awakening, but just because they've loved each other through so many lifetimes. And I was humbled and I was embarrassed for myself. And fortunately, I hadn't, acted out against them or anything, or, been ugly or, anything like that. But it was a big lesson to me about how souls move throughout time and space. And as a reader, it can be very hard to step out of our own way.
Yes.
In shamanism, we call it the hollow bone. And the idea is to be hollow bone and a vessel to allow those messages to just come through you without judgment. You're just there to facilitate, like a ventriloquist dummy, you're just there to facilitate. So I just wanted to mention that because it's one of the more extreme aha moments that I've had, reading. So, okay, so let's talk about just overall, the suit of wands means what? What are the qualities associated with the suit of wands? What's the symbolism? What's the meaning? What can people expect when they see that? And then we'll get into, the suit of wands upright meaning, the suit of wands reversed meaning. So overall, what is the suit of wands all about?
Wands is about communication, whether you're speaking it, whether it's unspoken, whether it's through expression of like feelings. And it's about, sometimes it conveys whether or not the person has the ability to express something. Like I look at wands as being the most youthful of all the archetypes. It goes wands, wands, cups, swords, and then pentacles. And with the wands, they are the most, pardon the expression, egocentric, youthful. And I don't mean that anything to do with intellect, because you can be highly intelligent and still not have the foresight to know what some of your actions will do when you're interacting with someone emotionally. So it's the emotional IQ that's either thwarted or not fully developed, or they can be egocentric if you really look at it. You can be very egocentric or self-centered. But it's also about sometimes if they're in reverse, I'll say that they can't express the intensity of their emotions. It's like they know what they feel, but they can't put words around it because the words don't quite fit. Words are limiting. You think, okay, we have a vast vocabulary. The feelings are far more intense. So you got to try to put those words to it. Sometimes you can't. So there's that great deal of difficulty in expression.
Or they express it inappropriately.
Yes, exactly.
The element for the suit of wands is fire, and that is about passion and exuberance and all of the foibles of you can't get it out, but you've got to express yourself in some way. It's like being in elementary school where the little boy slugs the little girl because he likes her, and she's all hurt, and her parents are like, no, that's boy code for he likes you, right?
Yes, exactly.
Hopefully we're raising generations of little boys who are not jealous. Yeah, exactly. Who are a little more self-aware and can express themselves, but listen, nature is nature. What are you going to do? Right.
Exactly.
And we all have stupid things that we do, sending notes. Do you like me? Check yes or no, that kind of thing.
Yeah.
What do you, I don't know. It's just, I think because wands can be used to create magic.
Yes. Creativity.
Yes. Or they can be used in a fight, in a skirmish.
Yes.
I sometimes I'll take a pause when I see, wands and swords in a reading. Mm-hmm. But one of the things that I like to remember about wands is that the element of fire, is if you guys remember, like you're a total mythology geek. And remember the story of Prometheus who held a torch to the sun to seal the fire, and that's how mankind got fire. I like to think, I don't really like that word steal, but maybe borrowed, because, the sun's got enough fire in it, I think, to share just a torch full. But in that, I like to think of wands as, there are sometimes things we can accomplish in our youthful zeal that once you get to a certain age, you either don't have the energy or the drive or really the wherewithal to have that creative spark that will literally change the world. And so
it's every Monday for me. Monday's here.
I call them moan days. I'm like, oh God, it's moan day. Listen, we're not trying to take you guys down a rabbit hole, and we don't want to sound like we're confused. We're not confused, but we do have the experience of knowing that things are not always what they seem. Cups are fairly straightforward. Pentacles or coins are fairly straightforward, but then you get into the interchangeable wands and swords, and you're like, yeah, my God. So, we're just trying to give you guys a broader, more holistic overview about this particular suit in the tarot. So
I think it's try to separate them because wands are softer. Not that they're softer, but they don't have a sharp edged blade like a sword.
Right.
I always explain to some of my readers, you ever hear of LARPing? You know how they put that foam around a pole? Yeah, my kids used to do it all the time. The noodles, the pool noodles there, and they would tape it up and they would, beat each other up, make pretend they're playing swords. It's more, if you look at the Five of Wands, they're really more about like a mock battle. Like it can be battle of words. Words can hurt, but they don't leave lasting wounds. Exactly.
Right. So if you look at the Five of Wands, I love this card because I had someone, I wrote about it on my site because I had someone say to me one time, thank you, Jiva Singh. We miss you very much. Shout out to Jiva who told me this. But it came up in a reading, and I was in the middle of a pretty epic battle in my life. And I looked at that card and I just started to cry. And I just was like, I can fight. Unfortunately, I'm a triple Scorpio. So if I ever choose to fight, we're going till the death. And I don't mean literal death. I just mean metaphorical death.
You mean DEAD, not DED.
Yes, exactly. Because DEAD, y'all, was really dead. It's only kind of dead, but DED, that is for real dead. So, we talked about social media. You learn so much from social media. But he said to me, what are you crying about? And I was like, I just can't. I can do this fight. I don't want to do this fight. And he said, look more closely. Who wears polka dots to a real fight, Bernadette?
Exactly.
He said, you don't have to take this as seriously as all that. He said, do what you do best, which is find the humor in things, and you'll find your way right out. Well, I wanted to understand what he was talking about. I just didn't in the moment because I was so upset. But as I thought about it the next few days, what I did was just be myself and started making jokes, macabre, dark jokes, but jokes nonetheless. Yeah. And it didn't take but a week when I was able to look out on the rest of the people that were attacking me or coming after me. And I was able to see them for who they really are. People completely unprepared to do a real battle. They were finding safety in numbers, but their numbers started dwindling away very quickly. And then poof, it was all gone. It just was all gone. And I walked away from the fight better off for it. Not because they drove me out, not because I was scared, just because I made the decision for it not to be my circus and not to be my monkeys and find the humor in it. And it just went away. And I would encourage you guys that when you see cards that are scary, that make you suck wind, because every time somebody sees a tarot card, that's the Tower card or the Death card or the Devil card, they start shaking. And I'm like, wait,
I can't wait to talk about those.
Yeah, hold on, calm down. Yep. Wands, like this card, the Nine of Wands, that's not such a promising looking card, but how do you interpret that card, Dana?
Well, I see somebody with a bandage on their head. So clearly there's some kind of emotional injury, or there may be some kind of a trauma that's been lasting that has affected the person's ability to communicate. You look at all the wands, they look like they're in the forest and they can't see their way through the trees. So it's due to past trauma. Now, if you look at how the wands are kind of designed, you got like 6 over here, or actually 5 over here, and 1's in the hand and 3 in front of them. So the 3 in front of them are remaining obstacles. If you look at a journey and you see how far you've come over through those obstacles, you got a little more a few more hurdles to jump before you can get out of the communication difficulty that you're in. And a lot of it has to do with perspective. Because if you're in the forest and you can't see where you're going, it really is about how you're seeing things. You're not seeing the bigger picture. That card's in reverse. It's as if you finally get the bigger picture. You rise above the trauma, you rise above the fray, and you can see things more objectively.
Yep. And sometimes that means rising above yourself. Taking the high road, even when you're like,
Yes. I don't go with that fixed mindset.
But you decide to take the high road anyway.
Exactly.
Which, we're in a time, Dana and I are filming this during the COVID pandemic, all the BLM movement and everything. And my gosh, people are more combative now than they have been in decades and decades and decades. And, so many people are throwing themselves in the middle of the mix and fighting a fight that they don't know the rules to.
Mm-hmm.
They don't understand the history of. They are just jumping on the band. They're picking up their clubs, their wands, their whatevers, and they're joining the bandwagon. And that is not helpful. That is not helpful at all. Now, is there a time to stand up and take up your wand or take up your sword, whether literally or figuratively? Yes. Bernadette personally would love to see a world that was just at total peace. I would love that. I love all cultures. I have got to say this. I just have got to say this. I might even make a video about it. Occasionally, it doesn't happen a lot, but occasionally I'll get some email, some nasty gram. No one ever approaches me about it kindly, ever. It's always just this combative, hateful, judgmental, without them knowing anything about me personally, nothing about how I live my life, what my particular beliefs are. And somebody's got to say, you are appropriating the Native American culture because you're white and you talk about spirit animals. But okay, how do you know I'm white? What does that even mean? White doesn't even really mean anything.
Yeah, exactly.
You have no idea of my family history, right? And that always leads to something about, you're treading on racism and stereotypes. To be clear, Bernadette has dated every color of the rainbow. I have been engaged to a gentleman that was first generation Mexican here in the States. I married a gentleman who was first generation Uruguayan, Castilian Spanish, and I was engaged to an African-American gentleman who rose up from the most abject poverty and abuse. I mean, so abused that he had shaken baby syndrome and had a shunt in his head, and yet he got his way out of that, got himself a master's degree, and became the police chief of Berkeley, California, one of the most celebrated police chiefs of Berkeley, California for years and years and years. His name is Dash Butler. He went way too soon. He is looking at us from the other side. And I love him even though he didn't believe in the boogity boogity. And that's ultimately why we didn't get married, was he didn't want to have anything to do with the world of metaphysics. Very super Christian, and that's okay, but he just couldn't make the ends meet. But the point is that when it comes to taking up wands or seeing them, I encourage you guys as readers, especially if you're reading during an emotionally inflamed time going on in the world, or even in your own circle, you might be tempted to see things through your filter and think that the fight or taking up the arms is more serious than it is, or you might tell somebody to put down their arms when maybe they shouldn't put down their arms. Maybe.
It's funny you say that. I saw a message like that just this weekend. Yeah.
What do you mean?
I saw saw something that was pretty unsettling for me. It was a psychic who claimed to be speaking, and I won't name any names, to someone who was recently abused by the police and had passed, and that they have become the voice for them, and that this person was speaking to them from beyond the grave, telling everybody to put down their arms. This is not the time to fight for civil liberties. And I just thought that was atrocious. I thought that was absolutely atrocious to say that, because when is the time, and who are you to say, and how dare you? You know what I mean? We should have been fighting. We should have been fighting for these civil liberties a long time ago.
Right.
We should have been fighting for them all along.
Right. Well,
it's gross.
Here's the problem. Let's be very clear, you guys. We are not getting into a political conversation. Bernadette does not discuss politics. Bernadette does not discuss religion at all, ever, even with my own family. Those are just not two things that I have conversations about. I just don't.
I agree.
That said, why it is particularly important when you're talking about the suit of wands and its symbolism and its meaning and what it might tell you as you're learning tarot, and this can even be true with swords, is that you've got to be, you don't got to do anything. But I would encourage you to remember that when you're giving a reading, it's about waiting for the story to unfold. And so things are not as easy as you see swords or you see wands, the suit, and you think instantly it's a black and white thing. You either take up arms or you lay down your arms. It's the same thing when people come to me and they say, is this person ever coming back? My immediate question to them is, do you want them back? And most times they'll say, yes, I do. And they'll say, that's only part of the story. And they'll say, they'll ask, what do you mean? Do you want them back if they continue to be an alcoholic without trying to get help, without trying to heal? Well, no. Do you want them back if they continue to have a porn problem or cheat on you or lie to you or misspend you guys' money or? Well, no. I said, so you don't want them back. You want the version of them that you want them to be back.
Right.
Oh, okay. So that's the thing when you're reading, like this person who said spirit came to her and maybe she drew wands or however it is she came about this message. Okay. Everybody should lay down their arms. Okay. And then what? Is there something in the magical, is there going to be some magic afoot where you lay down your arms and magically everybody's mindset changes? Because that's what we're talking about. Until the mindset changes, right? Which going back to, I want to go back to the nine of swords, nine of wands really quickly. When I see that card, I see it as a mental issue rather than a perspective issue. I see that card a lot when I'm dealing with people that have disorders, diagnosed disorders of some kind, because to be clear again, Bernadette is not a medical professional of any kind. I do not do medical intuition. It's not that I can't, I won't. I choose not to for every potential litigious reason that you can possibly have.
Exactly.
I don't do it. But when people come to me, I can ask them, do you by any chance have a diagnosis of depression or ADHD or OCD or yes, I do. Okay. And as long as it's already been established by the client and they do have a diagnosis from a physician, a licensed medical professional, then we can talk about that during the reading. So that's why it might seem like we've gone down a rabbit hole a little bit, but we're really not. If you just take a step back and you'll think, because wands are about communication, we can oftentimes communicate ineffectively or inappropriately because we haven't taken into consideration the entire landscape. Yes. So laying down arms would be great. Of course, that would be everyone's choice. As long as when you do that, a light bulb goes off in everybody's head about how to be accepting of every culture, embrace their differences, and celebrate and enjoy their differences, and still keep your own identity and all just work together within those boundaries. Let me give you a case in point. I work with a fella, and I've worked with him on my websites for, 7 or 8 years now. and he's African. He is Black and African, and I'm Southern. So we had to come together on, I couldn't understand why he was always so ready to jump on things. And yes, I'm older than he is, but I was like, this is not working for me. Could you explain to me why? And then there were some communication problems where I was like, oh, you ungrateful little bastard, or I should say judgment problems on my part, but they were telltale things that he was grabby. He didn't have the wherewithal, the patience, the whatever to sit and wait or make a plan together and have it take a month extra where everybody made more money or did better or had more fun. He had to, and he said, look, I hear you and I'm sorry if it offended you. He said, but where I'm from, if you don't reach out and grab it right then, you don't eat, you don't have a house, you might get taken away to serve in a kid's army. And when I looked at that from his perspective, I was like, honey, grab all you want. And when it's really important to me, I will ask as your client to slow down. And could we please do things this way? But I understand growing up. I don't understand it. I can't possibly fathom what it's like to grow up under that kind of fear and pressure, right? But I did grow up super, super po. We were just po. We couldn't even afford the extra OR to be poor. We was just po. I understand.
I still laugh. That expression's great, though.
But I did. I really grew up in the literal trailer in the woods. No joke. I'm going to get pictures and share them with you guys at some point. But it's just so important to think through it for your client because they are probably not thinking through it for themselves. Which leads me to one other thing. I wish we had brought this up, but we'll do a series of how to read tarot. So this is really just about the suit of wands and its meaning and symbolism. And but when you read, clients really do depend on you to ask the right questions. So going through all of this about the potential pitfalls, the potential outcomes, the potentials this, the potentials that. It's really important so that you are making sure that you're Paul Harvey. You're getting the rest of the story, right? And that's a terrible Paul Harvey impression, I know, but I just love him. I still love him. God rest his soul. I just love Paul Harvey. But it really is important that you get that and don't make a snap decision. Wait for the story to unfold. Ask whatever it is out there that you're working with, your angels, your spirit guides, God, the universe, et al. Ask them to send you specifics and evidence and the right questions to ask, and your readings will be so much richer and so much deeper. Now, then you talk about wands in different decks, because Dana and I teach on the Rider-Waite system, which, I don't have any data for this, but I would say that the greater preponderance of the tens of thousands of decks that are out there are based on the Rider-Waite system rather than the Lenormand system or Lenormand, or I've heard it pronounced like Arcana, tomato. When you start getting into decks, and I promise you this is not a plug, but I have an animal deck. So then when you're using this deck, you're going to want to take into consideration the animals and the animal symbolism that are part of that deck. Let's say that you're using a Wiccan or a witch deck. Let's say one of my favorite decks, it's just so adorable, is the Housewives Tarot. And it's very 50s, 60s retro. And, the energy of that time comes into it. So what might wands have meant? What might taking up of arms or laying down arms, or how was communication perceived back then? And this is for all of the suits, whatever deck you're using. Now, this is the hardcore Rider-Waite Tarot based on, here it is. Okay, so this is the Rider-Waite Tarot. It's the Radiant Rider-Waite Tarot, the bigger deck. I like it just because the colors are bolder and brighter. And from my book, even though, it is kind of the classic, this is what everybody bases their symbolism on. By and large, it's not the prettiest deck out there. There are a lot of other decks that are prettier, but definitely take into consideration the energy that's behind the deck that you're using when you're interpreting. So Dana, if you happen to see a lot, go ahead. Sorry, go ahead.
I was just going to mention that one of the good ways to remember what wands mean, and especially with the Rider Waite, if you look at any wand, they all have leaves on them, not just one, several.
Yeah.
Look at the leaves as you're manifesting something. Think about watch what you wish for, because there's potential outcomes in myriad directions that you can end up going in, that if you don't think about them when you're initially trying to manifest what you're getting, you may be sorry later on, or you may not be. It really depends on the reading, but it is a warning to watch what you wish for, because you will get it.
Yep.
Or not get it, depending on which direction it's in.
Right. So, the other thing is the numerology. When you see cards, you may not, sometimes it may not be about the card at all. It may be about there's one wand. What does the number one mean? I've seen the ace. Exactly. And I've seen the Ace of Wands come in particular when women are trying to get pregnant, or anybody is trying to start a new business, anything that they want to create or breathe life into. Yes. And I also see this when people are trying to decide which career path is going to be best for them, or maybe they're dating a couple of people at once and they want to know which one is the one. Likewise, if you see the 10 of Wands, what is the 10? Well, it's the number 1 multiplied to 10. You see, so
cycle and a new beginning.
Exactly. So, and also you can often, when I see cards that are side by side, like if I saw the 5 and the 4, well, that means 9 in numerology. Yeah. Sometimes it's not even about the symbolism of the card. It
also means linear motion, no hiccups or curves going in a certain direction.
Yep, exactly.
Going from 4 to 5.
Yep. So, there are a lot of readers that don't read. I don't want this to sound like I'm dogging them, because I'm not, but they don't read with this kind of depth because they don't make it their business to study the symbolism and or, a broad perspective of the symbolism, like colors. What are the color meanings in tarot? Well, when you take into consideration that the suit of wands is associated with the element of fire, we know instantaneously oranges and reds, which instantaneously brings me to the base, to the root chakra.
Yes.
What's going on here that's making you feel like you have to defend yourself? Why is your base so shaky? Or conversely, why is your base so solid, Tauruses, Dana, that you have trouble making the changes that you need to make, but you'll stay in hell forever because the change, even just the idea and going through the change is worse than living through the hell that you're living in. So that's where the intuitive tarot thing that I teach comes in, because sometimes cards will come up and it's not even like, if I look at this card, the 3 of Wands, I almost rarely see that as the 3 of Wands, but more as that luscious goldeny orange color that is sun energy in that deep red. And you put those together, and for me, it just, it warms me. It makes me feel safe. It makes me feel solid. And what is the traditional meaning of the 3 of Wands?
3 of Wands is about opportunities on the horizon that you can harness. And usually it's about entrepreneurship. When I see it as a doorway, because if you look at him, he looks like he's standing in a doorway.
See?
You've got 3 wands there. And if you look at the position of them, you've got one that looks like it's behind him, so it's the past. One that's right beside him, so that would be the immediate future, or the immediate moment, excuse me. And the one that he's got his hand on, which is the future. He's got a fast hold on the future. Now, this is also a card that's associated with the god Hermes, the trickster god. It's associated with business and liars and thieves. So you've got to be careful, depending on the rest of the story, what those opportunities are and if they're worth harnessing.
Right, exactly. So, that is I think we provided a lot of a deep dive into the suit of wands, and people have been writing me. You guys, thank you for watching. It is such an honor when you choose to spend your time with us and even pay one iota of attention to what we have to say. And I will say that the feedback I've been getting is I'm very honored and I'm very humbled, because we're trying to present tarot reading in not a new way, but maybe a broader way, or a more holistic look at it.
Digestible.
Yeah, exactly. Because it can, when you read tarot the way we do, and you're not just memorizing the words or the meanings that you've read in a book and regurgitating those back, but you're really allowing yourself to be the vehicle for deeper, broader, more specific messages, more evidential messages. You are doing such a great service for your clients and really for yourself. When you go back to, there's always a message or two in there for you when you do a reading. So, all right. So I think we've wrapped it up for the suit of wands. Dana, do you have anything that you want to add?
I don't think so, because I mean, we didn't go through the uprights and reversals, right? I mean, well, we kind of did, but we didn't. We touched on it. The uprights basically are about direct communication. I know when I look at the Ace of Wands, I always think about the Native Americans, or even any group, because there's other groups that do it too, where they take a baton and one person holds that baton and they pass it around the circle of whoever's speaking. And the person that has that talking stick is the one that speaks. Everyone else holds a feather, or they remain silent, because that's about sacred voice. So I think it's very much about the sacred voice, or holding back on not expressing your sacred voice, or intimate voice, if you're talking about romance and love. The lower cards, the Ace of, the 2, the 3, the 4, I really think that's more about really foundation communication. 2 of Wands is about, the world being your oyster, creating it. The 3 of Wands being, I'm trying to picture the 3 of Wands. Oh, we just talked about 3 of Wands, opportunities. And then the 4 of Wands, the 4 of Wands being one of my favorites, is like no chaos, the foundation where things are in balance for you. You start getting to the higher numbers, it's a little bit more conflict, working through a little bit more complexity, working through some emotional traumas or difficulty with communicating. You reverse them, you flip them upside down. Those are either subdued or blocked. So it depends on the card.
So why I'm laughing is this. So Dana and I, when we started this video, I was like, Dana, do you have your wand? We're ready for wands. She can't find her wand to love her money, but she did find her feather, right?
Yes, it's actually a pen.
Now, what's interesting is I have my wand, Dana's holding her feather, and I have been begging Dana to come out from behind and step into the spotlight for years now. And so today, of all days, when we're talking about whenever you do a reading, there's always a message or two in there for you. Dana and I are talking about the suit of wands.
Here's your feather.
And I've got my talking stick. She can't find hers for no apparent reason. She's like, I can't even watch. It'll appear second.
I don't use it often. I usually use my thing for directing will, but
don't you
wait for me.
Kind of
I know where it is.
That I'm holding the talking stick and you've got the feather, which is a signal to okay.
I gotta listen to your sacred voice.
No, you've got to listen. You've got to get your own.
You got the baton. I gotta find my baton.
Whatever. You see what I'm saying, though. So it's and I guarantee you'll find that one 20 seconds after we get off this video. So anyway, I really hope you guys benefited from this video. I hope you learned. I hope it helped you. It helps you grow, become a stronger reader, a more confident reader. Thank you, Dana, so much. Thank you guys for watching, tuning in. If you haven't subscribed to my YouTube channel, please do. Please, we'll put the link for Dana's YouTube channel below. Please subscribe to her. Also, we have come together on these tarot meaning videos, but we also do things separately and differently. She's got her own symbolism channel where she does a deep dive into all. Pick a symbol, she's on it, right?
Soon.
yeah, exactly. So. Thank you again. Thank you. And of everything that we'll ever tell you, what's the most important thing? Don't let them tame you, you guys. Stay wild.